Welcome back, Crime Spies. Who's ready for day 7? Or no, episode 7 of Justice or Injustice? Question mark. Soon to be named Injustice! Exclamation point. The troubling trial of Zachariah Anderson. I welcome you back. And I was spending the morning talking to my daughter about how awesome all of you are. Eek, what's going on here? Well, you're not here to see me. You're here to see this shit show of a trial. Welcome. Oh, hello, everyone. Becca Lynn is here. Yay, so glad you're doing this in less than 20. Judges just reading jury instructions. You've spoiled me. Trial is so boring without all of you. It's boring without you, too. I share that sentiment. Feral Housewife is here. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Don't let me forget now to let's figure out how to submit our recipes and figure out, can we put it on Etsy as like a paid thing and then they can download a PDF? Wouldn't that be fantastic? And there's like basically no cost. I mean, you share your recipe, maybe a short story, perhaps. Pixie's here. Good day, mate. Okay, so full confession for those of you in Australia. I used to do these videos for those of you who are longtime listeners of or watchers of Crime Spies. You've heard this story, but when my kids were little, they'd always ask me, how are the cats? How are the cats? How are the cats? Because we have 2 older sister cats. And so one day I figured out how to use Snapchat, and I would like pick a face that was like a cat, and then it usually had like a weird voice that went with it. Actually, on my YouTube channel, there's a very short one where I said something along the lines of, hello and welcome back to Search for the Domestic Feline. And I would channel my inner Steve Irwin. So the whole premise, so like a month ago, I did one with Lily and then one of our older cats, Lulu. And I'm like, I think it's time to turn over the reins from Mama Meow to Lily Kapow. Because we used to call her Lily Kapow, Lil Kapow. And she was in track. She lettered 4 times on the varsity track team when she was in 8th grade. So we called her Lil Kapow. Actually, when she was little, that's what she thought her name was. So anyway, and then so she's laughing. But I used to send these videos to the kids in the middle of the day, and it was Search for the Domestic Feline. And like I'd pretend I was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter guy. And I'd be like, oh, look, what is this? It looks like this domestic feline has been caught in some sort of tornado or, whatever. I have so many Mama Meow videos that I used to send them. And then even like when they started high school, they still wanted me to send them Mama Meow videos. So, like I said, I don't mean to disparage your lovely accent. I'm a little jealous. But, there's my attempt at an Australian accent. Channeling Mama Meow. They're actually kind of funny. There was one, there's another one where I think I sent it to Chrissy, where I had fashioned two broken fountains into one functional fountain, and one of the cats was like drinking out of it. And then I said, all right, have a wonderful day. Stay away from the boys. And it was it's really funny. I should upload those. Those should go viral. Steve is a national treasure. Okay. Well, please, if for somewhere I saw your name and I thought maybe I should do a disclaimer if I break out the Mama Meow voice. It's 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 because I think it's awesome, and I wish I didn't have the Minnesota, don't you know? Oofda. Oh, let's see. Myra. I saw a lot of your names in my brief time this morning on Discord. I'm trying to remember how to use it. So it's so, honest to God, this is just a thing of beauty seeing all of your wonderful, beautiful names on the screen. So, Kristine is here. Good day. Good afternoon. Oh, great. Now I'm going to do Mama Meow. It is, once you start it, it's kind of hard to shake it. Oh, and then I had this other, like, glasses lady, and then, like, she was just, oh, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen Princess Bride. If you haven't, you should. I've got another series of me trying to do, shoot now, what's his name? You killed my father, prepare to die. With like a mustache and like big giant eyes. And I was complaining about the cats because one of the cats likes to, you know, get fussy about the litter box. So anyway, I'll just start another channel for those. Indigo Monti, yes, Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. Inigo Montoya. I love that movie. My kids, that's their favorite movie too because I made them watch it when they were little. All right. Detective John is here. Okay, so for those of you, Detective John, I made it halfway through. Detective John actually was live last night when we were on. And so I went in and did a like, and then I don't know what happened. I meant to say hello in the chat, and I didn't. Long and short of it, I'm about halfway through his live stream from last night. I was watching it actually until I started this. And then he had, it was about the Idaho 4 house getting torn down and the technology that they have. And I was showing it to my one of the triplets, and then her boyfriend. The beginning part, and then also the part where he describes the technology and says, these jurors are going to be able, like when you have those games that go over your head and you can basically like walk around. That's what he was describing, and it's really fascinating. But I only made it through halfway, Detective John. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, sir. He's fabulous and super smart, and it's really nice to have someone that has such a long history in law enforcement, specifically in detective work and all sorts of different things, coming in and weighing on this trial. Disclaimer, number one, I said yesterday, if you have a heart condition, you may want to consult with your physician before continuing watching this trial, because it's kind of, the virtual reality things. Okay, so I'm going to have to write a note and put that in the link below if you're interested in that. It is really good. Oh, yes, I did. No, I listened to the whole first hour. Okay, that's another thing that kind of ping pongs on something we talked about the other day about the wonderful family of a creator, that T-Rev guy. He interviewed the wife and two children, and people were. He basically just wanted them to have a platform to speak. It's a big long story, but it was beautiful and heartwarming. And these children, what they've gone through, but yet they're so strong here. It's just you really gotta just watch his channel. He's so good. And on top of that, he's super busy. Super busy. So the fact that he dips into this, true crime community, and also just, expanding our cranium, so to speak. That's what Mama Meow would say too. Um, it's just heartwarming. He reminds me, for those of you that are familiar with Dan Bongino, he reminds me of that. Like, not very many people go out on a limb for the search of truth and justice like Dan Bongino does in the political world. He's, I get that vibe from him in the true crime world. Moonflower. Oh my gosh. Moonflower, hello. I have tried to grow moonflower here. It's kind of like I'm not gonna remember now. It's the same as, oh my god, my brain. Well, basically, it's very similar. No, it's gonna bug me. But it opens at night. It only opens at night. There's the other big giant vine thing that opens during the day. This grows at night, and every time I get it started, it dies on me. I forget now. Duh. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get started because I am sure this is going to be another marathon. We do have Erica Saylor. She's going to be our first witness today. Also, say a prayer to the internet gods that Xfinity doesn't mess with me like they did the other day and again last night. And also, oops, there was something else I will put on the screen and post in the chat pin thing. The Give, Send, Go for the family. I think they're $9,000 maybe away from their goal by the end of January. There's also other ways that you can non-monetary contributions, sharing word of the trial. We're going to try to do like some type of banana smash viral thing. I told Lily, she's got a huge following on TikTok, and I refuse to join that because in my opinion it's CCP. But anyway, but I was telling her about the banana smash idea that I ran past Soloman that he likes, and he thinks that might be something that could go viral over there on the Tickum Talkums. And then what else was I going to say? Well, I'll remember. We're going to be together here for a while. All right. So, full screen. And I did not get a chance to work on my stingers, but I did download the sounds. Moonflower. God, what is the name of that thing? I'll find it. Yes, Becca Lynn, Detective John gets justice served. He is so bold. I mean, people, well, like I've talked about, like Liz Collin, the one that did that documentary and wrote the book about the Derek Chauvin trial. Morning Glories. Thank you, Feral Housewife. Yes, the Morning Glories. Morning glories bloom during the day, and moonflowers are almost, they're the same basic. They look the same. It's just their flowers are white and they open at night. Oh, I just rhymed. I'm a poet, didn't know it. I'm so happy for her and the kids. She works 3 jobs and needs it. Yet he lives like a king and pays nothing. Not anymore. Thank you, Becca Lynn. See, we've got Detective John fans in here too. Oh, that was from Detective John. Well, just go subscribe to him. I will add that to the list. Crime Spies maybe should have taken her ginkgo biloba this morning. I will do that. John. But anyway, so for those of you on the Idaho 4, that follow the Idaho 4 thing, he does such a comprehensive explanation of the house and how it's laid out and how the jurors are going to be able to basically just walk in at be in that crime scene because of the technology. It's really good. He's just really good. That's it. That's all you need to know. Making YouTube useful. Yes, Becca Lynn. He is a superhero. He's a justice warrior. Well, we all are. We put on our armor. Well, that's the goal, at least. All right. So, added live stream. Wipe. Okay, see, I don't know how to fix that. Okay, so even though I think I sort of kind of know OBS, it does things like that, and I'm not 100% sure how to fix that. So you'll just have to bear with me. Now, there's one other thing I need to do, and it is almost done, I think. Oops. Oh my God, don't make me have to add another monitor. I don't have space. It's going to look like the Kennedy Space Center over here, I'm sure of it. Did that work? Looks like it did. It's a blue square now. I still got to write down that code. Cut. Okay. So, here we are. We are halfway through day 7, and we are at the point where Erica Saylor is walking in. And I meant to clip the judge with the orange because I laughed so hard. Here it is. I do have the sound that I'm going to put with the judge and the orange. We have sound not turned on yet. All right. Buckle up, buttercups.
Please do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in this matter will be the truth.
Thank you for being here.
Nothing from the self God. Please be seated. Oh, that's right. Thanks, Eddie.
Erica
Ms. Saylor,
Saylor.
can you state your first and last name and spell both your names for the... I'm sorry, did we swear in? I apologize.
I did.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, he remembered to swear in the witness.
State your
That's
first
good.
and last name and spell both your names for the record.
Erica Saylor, E-R-I-K-A-S-A-Y-L-O-R.
And Ms. Saylor, what town or city do you live in currently?
Kenosha.
And do you have any children?
I do.
How many?
3.
And do you have any children with a person named Michael Campbell?
I do.
How many?
2.
Okay, so Michael Campbell was the guy that was on the stand yesterday, and then he left, and the 2 sets of counsels argued back and forth, and he wasn't coming back. So this is his, I'm not sure if they were married. She says that they had, according to La Kong Express, who, again, his videos are friggin' awesome about this case. He pointed out in one of his videos that Michael had said they had 1 kid together, where she said they had 2 kids together. And also, this is sort of kind of not related, but I remembered today that there's this thing that's called Botrix somewhere in the chat. They usually pop in and say it's been, Botrix has successfully connected to your chat. I don't know how to use it, but when you're like live streaming, such as I am, basically flying solo, it has the capacity that if you say something like, if I would say give, send, go, it'll hear me say that. And then you know how like Stray puts in the chat the links to that, or like if I said, you know, like Law Kong or Law King Kong or something, if I give it a code word, then it'll drop their link in the chat automatically all by itself. I just have to figure out how to set it up. So for those of you who live stream pretty much on your own, it's called Botrix. And I got to figure it out. Then the moderators can just, sit back and not have to worry about it because it's just like whatever. It's prompted by certain things that the whoever's speaking says. Okay, there.
And as to Michael Campbell, were you back in May of 2020 in a relationship of some kind with Mr. Campbell?
Yes,
How would you characterize the relationship in May of 2020?
he was my boyfriend.
And where, if any place, can you tell me, did you reside versus where he resided in May of 2020?
We lived together.
And again, what city was that in, if you can tell us?
Kenosha.
Ms. Saylor, are you familiar with a person named Rosalio Gutierrez?
I am.
And how do you know that person?
He was a friend of mine.
And when...
Pause. Salvador is here. Hashtag I stand with Sal. I thought I saw... Is Broken Baker in here? Help Zachariah Anderson. Hello. You people are... You're so strong. I admire all of you. Broken Baker, is my boss in here? I hope she didn't see me slacking. Hello, Broken Baker. I watched you this morning too. He colored in a AI generated muffin. Please tell me that you've seen that episode of Seinfeld where they opened up a store that only served muffin tops, and then Elaine and Kramer, or Elaine was so mad because it just the stump, and then they had to try to dispose of all the stumps, and nobody wanted the stumps, not even the food shelter. It's really funny. Log Kong Express is here. Hello and welcome. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, he is actually the voice of Zachariah Anderson in episode 4 of the podcast Wrongful. Brandon Lesko is here. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Crime Spies. All right.
Did you first...
Oops, it's Botrix. Botrix. Another creator does these games, if you will, and if he wants to give away, I don't know, something out of his merch store, people have to type beanie hat or hat in the chat, and everybody who does that gets put on the screen, and it's Wheel of Fortune kind of thing. But it does have that capacity. I just got to figure out how to use it. Oh, Restream congratulated me. Okay, good. June is here. June, for those of you who may or might not have watched our Christmas streams, she's working on knitting a doggy blanket. I hope it's going well. And she's at work. She's listening in. So for those of you, June is going into Fraser Crane mode. She's listening. All right.
to know him?
I met him about 16 years ago.
Okay. And has he been was he a continuous friend up through May of 2020, or was he a person you knew periodically?
No, he was a continuous friend.
Okay. And what, if anything, can you say about in the time period of May of 2020, whether he and Michael Campbell had any connections or were in any way attached, friendship, work, any of those things?
Both. They were really good friends, and they worked with each other quite often.
Now, I've indicated Michael Campbell. Is that a person you're in a romantic relationship of any kind today?
No.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to the weekend that happened just before May 19th. Well, let's start with May 19th. Apologize. On May 19th, a Tuesday of 2020, was there a moment that somebody brought you news which was worrisome to you?
Yes.
And what would be your best estimate, again, just an estimate on what time you received that news and where you were?
I would say it was probably early afternoon. I was at home.
Okay. And who provided you news? I'm not asking what it was, but who provided it to you?
Mike.
And based on the news that you heard, did anyone else eventually arrive at your home?
Yes.
And who else do you recall arriving at your home, again, on that afternoon of May 19th, 2020?
Brandon Hendrickson.
Is that a person you already knew?
Yes.
How did you know that person?
He was a friend of ours.
Okay. After both Michael Campbell and Mr. Hendrickson and yourself were at the residence, what, if anything, did you do to begin to investigate any matters?
I immediately began to look for information in regards to Sadie. I knew that she had been seeing Junior, and
Let me stop you. So when you say Junior, are you referring to a person we've identified previously as Rosalio Gutierrez?
yes,
So if you say Junior, that's who you mean?
yes.
Go ahead.
I began to look for information to find out who Sadie was.
Were you ultimately able to figure that out?
Yes.
And if you recall, what source did you use? If you don't, just indicate in general.
Oh yeah, I searched Junior's Facebook friends.
Okay. And ultimately, you found an individual you could identify as a person you believed was likely Sadie?
Correct.
Okay. And then at that point, did you have a name for that individual? If you know. Did you have other than Sadie's first name, did you have a
No, I only knew of her first name.
Okay. And then what further investigation, if anything, did you do after you received or after you found out that who Sadie was?
I dug through her Facebook, just trying to get some general information about her ex. And then after that, I C-capped her.
Okay. And did you figure out who the ex was?
She did what?
And were you able to get a name?
Yes, I was.
And what name were you able to obtain?
Zachariah Anderson.
And if
What's a C-cap? Question mark.
in general, are you
Oh, I forgot I have that, like, C-cap. I don't know what that is. Stalking? Okay, I'll be quiet.
aware of what
I'll write it
sources or
down.
how you figured out that her ex was Zachariah Anderson at this point?
Yeah, so when I C-capped her, there was, I
Ding,
think,
ding.
a few court cases.
Yeah, okay, I don't want to know the details, but that you did through CCAP? Okay. And ultimately, through CCAP, you were able to identify a name, and that's Zachariah Anderson?
Correct.
And at any point, did you do any further investigation regarding this person, Zachariah Anderson, in relation to where the person might live or any of those kind of things?
I wouldn't say that I did further investigation into where he lived because that information was in the public records that I found.
Okay. So at some point, did you have in your possession on the afternoon of May 19th, 2020, an address you thought was likely an address of Zachariah Anderson?
Yes.
And what did you do with that information? Did you give it to anyone? Did you just keep it a secret? What did you do?
I gave it to Mike.
And that's the person, Michael Campbell?
Correct.
And I don't want to know what was discussed, but after Michael Campbell received it, what did you observe happen next?
He left the house.
And did Michael Campbell leave with anyone?
Yes, with Brandon.
Okay.
I wonder if that
Was
creepy
anyone
creepy
else
voice is going to
who are
speak
adults
to us again.
present when Michael Campbell and Brandon left your home?
No.
And what would be your estimate, if you have one, on what time they would have left your house? Again, only if you know.
I would say late afternoon.
Okay. Excuse me. Ms. Saylor, I'm going to now turn your attention to the weekend before this Tuesday the 19th. Okay? What, if anything, can you say about any memory you believe you have about contact with Rosalio Gutierrez on that day? On that weekend, I apologize.
We spent time with him that weekend at our home.
Do you have a recollection of what day that would have been? Only if you know.
No, I can't say exactly.
And And do you have a recollection of who else was at the home with the three of you?
Our children,
Okay, meaning your children?
correct.
And are you, other than your children and Rosalio Gutierrez and yourself, who else was present, if anyone?
Mike,
Michael? Okay, and were any other children present other than your children, your grouping of children?
I believe his children were there, but I honestly don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall what was going on in this situation?
Oh yeah, we were just having dinner like we would do weekly.
Cut some off.
All right.
Hit a nerve, perhaps, maybe. There's no sound. Oh, wait.
Now, I'm going to turn
Never
your attention
mind.
now to the Sunday evening, May 17th of 2020. In the evening hours, so dinner on, do you believe you recall who you were with, if anyone?
Yes,
And who do you believe you were with?
I was with Mike, my kids.
Mike Campbell?
Correct.
Okay, and kids, meaning the three kids you mentioned?
Yes,
And where were you located?
and our home.
Okay. And were you able to look back through either your social media or your phone, any information you keep on your phone, or any information you store to provide some information to you about what was happening around mealtime?
Yes,
And did you provide that eventually to the DA's office?
I did.
Okay, I'm going to show you a video. What? Oh, let's do that.
There was a pizza box.
Ask you if you recognize this as something you provided to the state, meaning the DA's office.
I'm going to object as far as relevancy and foundation.
Oh, the pizza party was supposed to be at Mike's house. Ding, ding. Thanks, Mira.
Oh, yeah, respond. She's indicated who was with her on the evening of the 17th. She's indicating she has a memory of that. She's indicating these videos contribute to her ability to remember that. So we're going to show these as to confirm that she's bolstered by the fact that she has reviewed these videos.
And she is what?
She's bolstered by the fact that she has found these videos and that they confirm her memory that she and Michael and her children
I'm
were
not clear.
together.
Are you asking her to view them to refresh her memory or merely to buttress the fact that her memory has been refreshed?
To show that they confirm the memory of what she remembers that day. So they bolster her memory, correct? They bolster.
So are you offering
Same
for
Mira.
her to look at them or jury to see them?
I'm offering them for the jury to see because they are the reference points that allow her to say, yes, on the 17th, this is what we were doing.
Yeah, Judge. She hasn't established that her memory is faulty in any way, so this isn't being done to refresh recollection that she's indicating she can't remember. And you can't bolster someone's memory of what happened before. I mean, first of all, we're not supposed to bolster anything, right? But also, if it hasn't been established that she needs this to refresh anything about what she's testifying to, it's really not relevant.
If it were, and I'm still not clear.
Okay.
If it is being done to refresh her recollection,
It is not.
okay. Well, you can't refresh or you can bolster her credibility, but only after it's been attacked.
So
I'd ask that the image of the video be taken off the screen.
so here would be the example I would like. If somebody says to you, okay, on this day, where were you? And you go through your social media and you say, I have reviewed my social media. Here's how I know where I was on this day and what I did on this day. Then I believe you can not only testify, here's where I was and what I did on this day, but you can say, here are the ways that I have been able to determine that. Otherwise, as the court can
Well,
imagine,
how is it different from a witness who has a memory of
see
something
how-
and then offers
See how aggressively he
a document to
drinks water.
substantiate the accuracy of the statement?
That's
A
prior.
prior consistent statement, if there's,
No, it's not a statement.
Well, no, that's the prior recorded, it's prior recollection refreshed through the document itself.
No, because says the memory doesn't require refreshment.
Judge, I think the objection that I had noted too was, I think we haven't gotten to that next step of whether she needs refreshing her recollection or if we're admitting the video as a past memory recorded.
No, that's.
But I think what my objection was to foundation as well, because the state hadn't asked her about where she was that evening and then just attempted to just show the video.
The rules we've been talking about, and maybe I was the architect of the problem, deal with principally with statements. It doesn't have to be statements. It can be other things that are used in one instance to refresh recollection, which has been testified to be exhausted, or as a record of a past recollection. But there are also situations, I had dinner at the house of Gerhardt the other night. Here's the receipt.
Pause. Pause. Salvador just said, so for those of you who are new to Salvador, I'm guessing you all know him. Salvador, let's just say, has an intimate relationship with the Kenosha or with the Wisconsin trial record keeping. What is that even called? FOIA people. He says, I checked evidence in this trial today. They only had the photo of the box with the receipt, but it's blurry. I may request original photo from Kenosha and examine. So let's just say he would know how to do that. We'd call the pizza place if we had Rosalio's phone number. Rosalio's phone number was given, I think, earlier. I mean, it's in... I don't think it's redacted. I'm pretty sure I heard it. Like one of the first couple day or so. Okay, so I might readjust this Botrix, or not Botrix box, this box underneath my head with the chat, and make it so that you can read back a little bit farther. Okay, let's continue.
That doesn't fall into either category.
No, I think that would be permissible. That hasn't been done here.
Well,
The previous question is, that's why I had objected to foundation.
Oh, again, the questions that have already been asked, okay, so the record is already in. I
Gravely
asked her
showing
where
his
she was that
cards
day,
again.
who
Right.
she was with,
right?
Oops.
and that evening. Now I'm asking whether this video is hers, and did she use this to be able to determine where she was, what was going on that day. So it is her, essentially what you just said. It's her saying, because I'm looking through my social media, I'm able to recreate this. Just as if you had a receipt, you'd be able to recreate it.
Stray is here. How was your
the
doctor
normal and most
appointment?
direct way of asking those questions is to ask her what she was doing, if she remembers. And then if she has trouble remembering, then this may come into play. But there hasn't been any showing of relevance other than to want to play it in front of the jury. And that's a separate issue, by the way, as to whether or not it's something that is relevant to a finding of fact that the jury would have to make here.
Well, unlike you, as I've said before, I haven't seen any of this before, so I have no idea. But if he's describing it properly, then it's a it's a refreshment of recollection through a past recorded recollection, which is a kind of a hybrid, but I think it's admissible, just like my dinner receipt would be.
Okay, all right, and Judge, I'm just going to request that that you limit each of our counsel tables to only having one attorney per witness render objections or make arguments. So I just fear we'll never get out of here if you allow both attorneys on either side or all three attorneys. You know, we have 5 attorneys. I just would ask the court to make a simple request or perhaps an order indicating anytime there's going to be argument here on a particular witness, that one objects and one makes the legal rulings, and that we not go back and forth.
Well, I understand the time issue,
One objects and one.
but this is something that the rule exists principally for the protection of the poor reporter, and she's indicated thus far anyway it hasn't presented too much of a problem.
Okay.
So I'll leave it as is.
All right. Again, Ms. Saylor, were you able to determine many things about the evening of May 17th based on a review of some information you had in your possession?
Yes.
And particularly, were there 2 videos that caused you to have some memories that allowed you to recreate May 17th in the evening hours?
Yes.
All right. And did you provide those 2 videos that helped you recreate that knowledge of what happened on that evening with your family?
I did.
Okay. So now I'm going to show you again, and I've lost track of what it was marked.
State Exhibit 1, number 346.
State Exhibit 1, number 346, and ask you, is this one of the videos that you observed that allowed you to have a memory of how the evening went on May 17th? It's going to come up in a second. Okay, so is that you taking a video there
That is me.
of you essentially panning the food?
That's right.
Panning across the food. Okay.
She
Does
sounds
this
so pleased
give
with
you
herself.
refresh your memory about what you guys ordered for food that night?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that?
Shogun.
Okay, and were you able then to show us a time and date stamp on a separate document that verified that this video was from the 17th in the evening?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you that, and counsel, if you'd say what that exhibit is numbered.
State Exhibit 1, number 347.
Okay, so is this again the video in question?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and can you see on there some sort of a time stamping that allows us to tell you what date and time that video was taken?
Yes.
And so what does this exhibit reveal?
It states May 17th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, and is that consistent in your memory with when this food was served to your family?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you also have a memory from the 17th of a performance taking place at your household?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't want to know the name of that individual, but can you indicate by sex and age who that person was back in May of 2020?
A male boy. Is that what you want?
Well,
You said
son
by
or
sex
daughter,
and age.
son or daughter.
Okay,
yeah.
it was.
We're trying not to say names of minors out loud.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, definitely not. It was my son.
Okay, and what age was he in the video?
He was 7. 7.
7?
7 or 8.
And did that also provide you some context of this particular Sunday at your house?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to take a look at that, and it's marked.
Just one pause. I'm sorry, I'm monkeying around with the windows. And I'm probably going to monkey a hair more. I know it's not beautiful, but with the restream, you can see the brand new messages sliding in at the top. So the newest message slides in the top and then, it goes down. So hopefully, if you're watching on Rumble and Kick, you can see the chat. There's a fine line between making it big enough so everybody can read it, and I totally understand that the screen really looks bad right now, but I will be working on it. All right, continue.
Mark what?
States Exhibit 1, 3, 4, 5.
And then tell me as this is going on, is there a person peeking sort of in the background?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you the one providing whatever the commentary is there?
That is me.
Okay. And did a person peek through a doorway in the background there?
Yes.
Okay. And who was that individual?
That was Mike Campbell.
And is the hairdo that we saw in that peek the same hairdo you recall him having on May 17th of 2020?
Yes.
So as I saw him, he appeared to have a shaven head.
That's correct.
Okay. Is that the hairdo that he had throughout May of 2020, or did you observe him to change his hairdo at any point during that period of time?
No, that's the hairdo he's had as long as I've known him.
Smoosh. You have to
I have no further
pause.
questions, Your Honor.
You have to pause and hit the like button.
Good afternoon. That last video we saw, you didn't have a timestamp on that one?
I mean, there is one. I don't know that I provided that.
Okay. And then the video of the sushi, had you gone out to eat?
No.
Okay, that was at home.
Correct.
Okay. And then the state had said you had provided that to the district attorney's office?
Correct.
That was just recently, correct?
I would say, gosh, to be honest with you, I don't recall when I sent that to them. It may have been last year. I don't really remember. It may have been earlier this year. I don't recall exactly.
But it wasn't in May of 2020?
No.
You didn't speak to detectives in May of 2020?
No, I did not.
No one ever reached out to you?
No.
Okay. May 17th in the early morning hours, like 1 to 2 a.m., do you remember where you were then?
I believe I was at home.
Sleeping?
Could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early. Do you remember, okay, so that would have been like really early morning Sunday, that Saturday. Do you remember what you had done on that Saturday, May 16th?
No.
Okay. You have no recollection of going to a bar or anything like that?
No, not that I can recall.
And in these videos we were shown about around 7:30ish on May 17th, 2020, you said Mr. Campbell was with you during those times?
That is correct.
Did you have any information or did you make any observations of where Mr. Campbell was the very early morning hours of May 17th around 1 to 2 a.m.?
No.
And the very late night hours of May 17th, 2020, do you have any information of where he was?
I'm going to object as to vagueness. So May 17th, at what time would be my request? Rather than saying very late hours.
That's for your request. Overruled.
You can answer it, sorry.
Okay. Please repeat the question.
Sure, the very late hours of May 17th, so midnight, early morning hours, 1 a.m., so of May 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Did you observe where Mr. Campbell was?
No.
No further questions.
So you had the sushi on the evening hours of the 17th, correct?
Correct.
Did Michael Campbell leave your home after you had the sushi on that day, on that evening?
No.
Okay.
No, he did not. I think I misunderstood your date. Sorry.
Now that you understand the question, does that, 11 p.m. on the 17th, the same night you had the sushi, do you know where Michael Campbell was?
Yes, he was at home.
Okay. Midnight on the same night you had the sushi, do you know where he was then?
Yes, he was at home.
Okay. Nothing else.
I'm going to make just a limited recross. Were you sleeping during those hours?
Could have been. I'm not sure.
So based on just what your observations are, you cannot definitively state during all those hours from, let's say, 12 a.m. or let's say 11 p.m. on the 17th all the way through, let's say, 6 a.m. on Monday, May 18th, you didn't make any actual observations if you were sleeping?
I'm a really light sleeper, so we were home in bed. If he would have left, I would have woken up from that. So,
No further questions.
Nothing on that.
You may step down, ma'am.
Kayla's here. Kayla was on Rumble yesterday too. I gotta figure out how I can balance your viewing space. Okay, and just one moment. I'm not 100% sure if I changed the date correctly, but I believe it is 1,319 days that Zachariah Anderson has been incarcerated. Okay, good, Kristine. All right, so I'm going to take this opportunity to just say, I think to keep the conversation rolling towards the trial, I'm going to link, if you want your channel link in the description underneath. You know, we've got the bullet points for, you know, Vielhammer for the video, the Give, Send, Go for Zachariah Anderson's legal fund, the website for him with all the evidence, seen, unseen, you know, press releases and such. Then I've got the wrongful podcast link. I've got Law Kong Express's link. And then I've got Broken Baker's interview link with Soloman Anderson. I've got MLS David's link to interview with Soloman Anderson, as well as his link explaining the Denny motion in the very beginning of this trial when the opening statements were going on. What else? And then now I'm going to start another link underneath that with like other creators' channels. Like I need to add Detective John. I need to add Saul, Hella's channel, Excited Utterances, and whoever else. Then that way like, you know, people like Stray who come in and post, you know, other people's channels, they can, you know, sit back and relax, if you will. Hopefully that makes sense. Now there's silence. See, I wish I had my Judge's Orange Stinger ready for you, if you will. Okay, so Bureau Housewife says, Law Kong, don't make me dive back into everyone's Facebook. I've kind of avoided Facebook for a while, but there's a lot of people like, I don't know if you follow Plunder, Paula Neely Mooney, I think is her name. She's really, and like Gazella Grizzly True Crime. She also,
Raise your right hand.
I mean, there are so many good diggers, if you will, of information.
I do. Please be seated.
Yeah, Straight. You just, I mean, the fact that you are here is amazing.
Mr. Witucky, can you state your
Sit back,
first and last name and
relax.
spell your last name for the record?
Ronald G. Witucky, Witucki.
Okay, who's this
And
guy?
how are you employed?
I work at the State Crime Laboratory in Milwaukee.
Oh,
How long have you been so employed?
Crime Lab. I'm
A
going to
little
be
over
quiet.
35 years.
And What's the nature of your employment at the
I
Wisconsin
wonder if
State
Detective
Crime
John
Lab in
is still
Milwaukee?
here.
I work in the DNA analysis unit.
How
I'm
long have you
assuming
worked
he's
in the
busy.
DNA analysis unit at that agency?
When I started at the crime lab, like I said, about 35 years ago, we did not have a DNA analysis unit. We initiated the DNA analysis unit in the
Kayla says, have you ever seen a nerdier guy? Okay, considering the fact that I'm an accountant and I work, with the beans, if you will, there's been plenty of nerd crossed my path. Okay, and also just a friendly reminder, the chat is coming into your viewing area current on top and it slides in, so you should be able to notice it. Also, make sure to pay attention to the little nuggets of information from Law Kong Express. He just said that this guy saw nothing and rubber stamped Lisa. What's her face's report? John Geary. He has been doing this since before DNA was invented. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. All right, continue.
the mid-1990s, so I was part of the unit before then, but I've always been a part of the analysis unit, the DNA analysis unit.
So in summary, how many years have you been a person analyzing DNA samples in conjunction with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab? Starting when?
Oh, probably about 30 years.
And what sort of, first of all, education do you have to be able to get that position?
Okay,
In
pause.
1982, I graduated.
Okay, now, for those of you who have been here a couple days now, remember that Van Wee guy? How come they didn't do that with him? Well, maybe they did, but they kind of forgot to mention the fact that he didn't get his 40 hours of training until 15 months after he processed a crime scene. And isn't it protocol that if they ask them about their credentials, aren't they supposed to submit it to the court that the witness is going to testify as an expert and the defense has to agree to that? Question mark.
Graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in medical technology. I worked about 4 years in the clinical laboratory as a medical technologist. At that point, I went back to school and later received my biology major. I began work at the Crime Lab in Milwaukee in January of 1988, and I began a 6-month training program in forensic serology. In October of 1988, I attended a 2-week training session, excuse me, on semen identification techniques at the Serological Research Institute in Richmond, California. In November of 1990, I attended a 4-week training session on DNA typing methods at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. And as I said, in the mid-1990s, I was part of the validation work that allowed us to implement the DNA typing technology into the crime laboratory and apply it to our casework. I took graduate coursework in 1997 in human development, anatomy, and biochemistry. I attended a 1-week training session on PCR DNA typing methods.
If I could interrupt, and have you continued, without needing to detail each one, have you continued to stay current in the field and continued to educate yourself and get trainings consistent with your profession?
Yes, each year we're required to take 8 hours of continuing education on a DNA-related topic, and I've also done that.
And in your capacity as a DNA analyst at the
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's try again. See, I need to use the button. I went and grabbed this delicious bag of festival, starting again, Fleet Farm Festival mix. Because, I need a snack. And all I saw was Kayla saying, 88, I was born in 88. And to which I said, I graduated from high school in 88. And then I was doing like our little cheer we used to do for our class of 1988. I'm not going to repeat that because it wasn't very good the first time. But then, then what I said was eights, and then like June was in the chat the other day and said 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8. The new year we were talking about the banana smash, and then somebody said 8 is a hug. Hello, BBC. Is that Rooster? Hello and welcome so much. See, now I can see those. Now I got to figure out why in the world Rumble can't quite. Well, anyway, so my point is, there was 8s with the year 2024. Then there was, somebody said 8 like signifies a hug. And then now this 88, and Kayla is born in 88, and I graduated in 88. See where I'm going with this? It's Kismet. Okay. That was my very short segue. Squirrel, if you will.
State Crime Lab during that those several years.
I was born in
as a
1969.
DNA analyst. Do you have a estimate on how many samples that you have performed tests on to determine whether DNA was present?
Well, I never keep a running total or track of it, but it would have to be thousands at this point in time.
And did you test some samples and prepare a report dated August 8th, 2022 under a case name Rosalio Gutierrez?
Yes, I did.
And is that a case name at the lab that originally had a different DNA analysis or analyst do some work on that case as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you were a second analyst brought in to do some additional testing, would be my understanding, is that correct?
I think that's a fair statement, yes.
And in the conjunction with the items you tested for possible DNA, did you prepare a report, again, dated August 8th, 2022?
I did.
And did you provide some conclusions within that report about the things you tested?
August
Yes,
8th, 2022.
And do the opinions you offer that in report, and in fact the opinions you offer in your testimony today, are you offering those to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44. Just for purposes of the record, could you indicate, is this a copy of that report of August 8th, 2022 that we've talked about so far?
Pause. So the date of this report is August 8th, 2022. Yet the crime scene was discovered May 19th, 2020. So for those of you who are in law enforcement or attorneys, is it typical that tests and stuff aren't done until several years later? I mean, maybe. I don't know, maybe that was a stupid question. No, the only stupid question was one that is not asked.
Yes, it appears to be an accurate copy
Baker.
of the report that I prepared and issued on August 8th of 2022.
So you anticipated my next question, which is it a true and accurate copy of the report you prepared?
Yes, it is.
Any changes or alterations you see other than a sticker on it that has a number?
No, correct.
Judge, I'd move admission of the exhibit.
Is there objection?
No.
Steve?
I'd like to go through your conclusions on that exhibit briefly. Ask, did you take a look at an item that is described as item AU, a piece of clothing described as jeans?
Yes.
And was that something that you were asked to determine whether there was the presence of blood?
Yes, it was.
And were you able to figure out whether the presence of blood were located on that pair of jeans?
I looked for blood. I could not identify any blood on those pair of jeans.
And were you able to identify DNA on those jeans?
There were a couple of stained areas that I extracted for DNA, and I did find DNA in both those stains.
And ultimately, were you able to compare that to a profile of a particular individual?
I compared it to several profiles. There was one matching profile for for the genes. I compared it to several individuals, but none of those were matches. They were all exclusions.
So as to the match, was that an individual identified to you as Zachariah Anderson?
Yes, with my testing, I assumed since that was the individual associated with the genes or that they were taken from, that his DNA would have been present on there.
And in your lab world, when you say associated with and you're talking about genes, you mean who wore them? Would that be our normal phrase for that?
Yes.
Okay. So you would anticipate the person who wore them would have DNA on them. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And did you confirm that was the case in your results here?
When I looked at the profile, it was a mixture. And the types that I found, the types that were present were consistent with the person that they were from, Zachariah, but also there was another person, and when I tried to figure out who the other person was in that mixture, all the standards that I compared it to, they were all exclusions. In other words, no one explained who the second contributor was.
And just for purposes of the jury knowing, one of the people that you looked at who were excluded, meaning they were not the source of that DNA, was the individual Rosalio Gutierrez. Is that correct? So his DNA was not detectable on the genes.
That's correct. He was an exclusion as being the second contributor for that stain.
So to this point in time, the second contributor is unknown to you. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now I'd like to go on to an item that you identify as item AV, and that's labeled in your report as swabbing recovered from the exterior door north side. Did you conduct a test on item AV?
Yes, I was able to determine that there was blood present on item AV.
And was blood present?
Yes.
And then did you attempt to indicate whether that DNA had blood that was appropriate for comparison with the DNA of the other persons that you had samples of?
Yes, I compared it to several individuals, and there was only one person that came back as a match.
And does that mean that person would be the source for purposes of your discussion?
In my opinion, they were the source of that profile.
And who was that individual? Who was the source?
That was Rosalio Gutierrez.
Okay. And again, that was blood, and it was at the exterior door north side. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the label? Okay.
Correct. That's item AV.
I'm going to show you this been marked as State's Exhibit 86. Just confirm that packaging appears to be the same sample that you tested and, again, found to be the blood of Rosalio Gutierrez.
86. 86. Was it previously admitted?
Yes, it is. It has our laboratory case number. It has the item designation letter, and it also has the date and my initials on it.
So that is the sample that you've just testified to in terms of results.
Correct.
Okay. Now I'm at item AW that is indicated as a swabbing recovered from the interior door. Did you take a look at AW?
I did.
And first of all, did you try to determine whether there was blood?
Correct.
And how did you, what if any result did you get?
Again, I was able to determine that there was blood on that item.
Then did you do further testing to see if it was appropriate to see if anybody's DNA matched?
Yes, I was able to do, again, DNA typing on there, developed a profile that was usable for comparison and compared it to a number of individuals.
And did it result in a match?
Yes.
And who was the match?
Again, there was only one match, and and that person that it was matching to was Rosalio Gutierrez.
Now, when something is blood like that, is the single match idea? Is that what you would expect to have be the result?
You mean like a single source profile, or?
Yeah, as opposed to skin cells and those kind of things where there might be more mingling. Is blood a logical place for you to get a single source profile?
Probably that would be the tissue that yields a single source profile the most often for the cases that we work.
So no surprise that you got single source on blood.
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you then what's been marked as State's Exhibit 84. Ask you, is that the packaging for AW?
Yes, it is. And again, this has our laboratory case number, the item designation letter, which is AW. And I've also placed the date and my initials on this item.
Then as to item AX, which is described as swabbing recovered from the middle seat cushion of sofa. Did you conduct testing on that first to determine whether it was blood?
Hi, Josie.
And what, if anything, can you say about...
I was raving about you and everybody on Wrongful this morning with my children. Okay, so I've now added underneath in the description box the live stream tomorrow night on Niklas Starow. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. You know, the guy from Sweden with the long beard and the long hair and Mr. Jingles. And that link does work. I tried to post it in the chat, did not work. I think I'm going to wait until later to add anything else because now I'm not paying attention. We can't have that because then I look stupid. All right. So if there's anything else that you can think of, let me know and I will add it to the list. Continue. Oh, so the reason I wanted to put that there was because he's having, isn't it like a live stream fundraiser for Zachariah Anderson family? He's got in his chat the Give, Send, Go link. Oh, which I'm going to post and pin. That's my understanding of what that is all about, which is, it warms my heart. 311. So what you're saying is the first 100 or so is the hardest, because I didn't even think, I thought it was kind of an impossible dream at one point that I'd actually get to 500. Huh. Maybe it's true. Maybe the first couple hundred are the hardest to get. Only took 9 months. And we're not here to hear me tell you about all my lonely live streams and trials I've covered all alone. Okay. I had fun. Okay.
A result in terms of determining its blood?
Once again, that was positive for blood.
And then were you able to compare the known standards and see if you could find a match in terms of DNA?
Yes. Again, I did a comparison to several profiles.
And were you able to get a match?
I did.
Look at
Who's
all
your
you
match?
Wait, is there like 20
again,
people watching?
The match came to Rosalio Gutierrez, and the other profiles were not matches.
That was again a single source?
Correct. Well, that one actually gave
Oh my God,
a
wild.
major profile, and there were a couple of markers that showed up very weakly. So I still came to the same conclusion.
Pause one moment. Also, each day of this trial, we're getting like 200 views over on Rumble. FYI, for those of you in the know. That's really good. That's like a demographic we haven't tapped into yet, if you will.
As far as the major profile, there was those 2 additional markers that were some sort of very minor, trivial component. And that
Go ahead.
minor component was of such little information, it was not useful for comparison purposes.
Thank you. And so I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 83 and ask you, is this the packaging for what you described as sample lab lettering AX? And is that in fact packaging for the sample you just testified to the result?
It is, and again, it has all the markings that I described previously. It has our laboratory case number, our item designation letter, and then I've written my initials along with the date on the packaging.
So that, in fact, is the packaging for item that you've identified as AX, correct?
Correct.
Now I'm going to turn my attention to item AY. And that's labeled swabbing recovered from the living room ceiling. First, did you test that for blood?
Yes.
What was the result?
Again, I identified blood on those swabs.
Did you then test it for DNA?
I did.
What was the result?
Again, I developed a single source profile for those swabs, compared the profile to the profiles that I had for comparison, and they were all eliminations except one was a match, and that was from Rosalio Gutierrez.
And again, so this was blood, and it was the DNA of Rosalio Gutierrez?
Correct.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 82 and ask you, is this the packaging for AY that you have just testified to?
Yes, it is. And again, it has all the markings I described before, the laboratory case number, the item designation letter, and I've written my initials and the date on the packaging.
Now I'm going to turn your attention to item AZ, and Judge, there's only one other one after this, so this is the last of 2. As to AZ, identified as swabbing recovered from the tabletop, did you first test that for blood?
I did.
And when you tested that for blood, what was the result?
Again, I was able to identify blood on those swabs.
And then did you attempt to see if you could match it in terms of DNA?
I did.
And what was the result of that attempt?
Again, I went through the same comparison. I have found only one match, and that match was with the profile from Rosalio Gutierrez.
I'm going to show you it's been marked as State's Exhibit 78. Ask you, is that packaging consistent with what you just testified to in terms of the sample utilized to make the determinations you just filed?
Yes, it is. And again, it has all those markings of the lab case number, the item designation letter, and I've written my initials as well as the date on the packaging.
Finally, I'm going to ask you to take a look at item BA in terms of your report. Is that, first of all, identified as swabbing recovered from the kitchen counter? Did you test that for possible blood?
Yes, that's from the kitchen counter. I tested it for blood, and again, I identified blood on those swabs.
And were you able then to test that for DNA?
Yes.
And so whose DNA was that, if anyone's, in terms of a match?
The profile, again, I compared to the profiles from different individuals. Again, all were exclusions except one matched, and that was from Rosalio Gutierrez.
So I'm going to ask you finally then to take a look at State's Exhibit 88 and ask you in terms of packaging, is this packaging consistent with item BA, the sample you just talked about in Soloman?
Yes, it is. It has our laboratory case number, that item designation letter, BA, and I, again, have written my initials and the date on the packaging.
So I've showed you a number of packagings. Mr. Witucky, are you able, what if anything can you say about whether you're confident those packages are the same? I mean, you haven't opened any of them. So are you confident that those packages are the same items that you conducted the tests on that we are talking about, and why? Without opening them, how do you know that?
Well, first of all, when we look at an item of evidence, the laboratory case number with the item designation letter label is placed on that package. And immediately when I take control of the package, I place my initials with a pen and the date that I took control of it. And then when my testing is complete, I repackage the item, reseal it, and the tape that I use to reseal the paper packaging, I again place the date and my initials on the tape and the packaging, so that if there's any tampering, you'll be able to tell that someone had opened the package after I was done examining it.
So looking at each of the packagings individually that you examined, was that one of the things you were looking for, whether there was any manipulation or change in the packaging from what you would anticipate?
That's correct.
And so based on that, are you able to express confidence that each of the exhibits I showed you are in fact the actual items that you've testified to and written a report about?
I am confident.
Now, Mr. Witucky, were you a peer reviewer on any of the reporting that was previously done by Lisa Treffinger on the same case?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to go through the results with you, but when you peer review, what is it that you do at the crime lab to make sure that someone is accurate, or what's peer reviewing in the process that you were doing with Ms. Treffinger on the previous reports on the Rosalio Gutierrez case?
I guess I'm going to object as far as relevance, given that Lisa Treffinger's report's already been submitted into evidence without objection. I don't think it would be not relevant and cumulative to have him testify to Analyst Treffinger's report.
Well, I assume that at some point that there will be some disputing by the defense that Ms. Treffinger's conclusions in that report and regarding whether this item is blood, but also the details of the report may be challenged, and so this is the peer reviewer. So I wasn't going to ask each conclusion. I was just going to ask, what do you do to peer review, and did you have any issues with this report Ms. Treffinger did as her peer reviewer?
And
did he? I'm sorry. I apologize. I just took a breath. And did he review the same materials to check her conclusions?
And Judge, to that point, the test that would be in dispute that the state's referring to was not a test that was actually conducted by Lisa Treffinger. Item A1 was not tested for blood. It was just DNA. And so there is no blood test to be refuted. I think that her report that's been submitted, it's already been admitted into evidence, can speak for itself.
Are you saying there's no dispute and will be no dispute as to?
There's a dispute to her opinion, but it wasn't an opinion that was included in her report. So that opinion was not something that Analyst Witucky, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, peer reviewed, because it wasn't a test that was completed as to whether the presence of blood was existed.
The objections are ruled.
Okay. So, Mr. Witucky, did you peer review the actual testing done by Ms. Treffinger in her report that I'll show you now, that is Stacy did it.
Yes, this appears to be the copy that Lisa prepared, issued March 29th of 2021. And I was the peer reviewer, and I know that. Not only do I remember it, but my initials and date are on each of these 6 pages of the report.
When you peer review, are you aware of the entire process by which determinations are made or opinions are rendered by the crime lab? Or is it just the print in there, or is the entire decision-making process part of your peer review?
So what happens at the crime laboratory in any section, not just DNA, is that any report that is issued and is sent out of the crime laboratory has to be peer reviewed. And a qualified peer reviewer is a working case analyst that is knowledgeable and, as I said, qualified to do work in that discipline, in this case, DNA. So I was the reviewer in this case, and my job is to look at all of Lisa's notes, all the data she's collected, all her testing results, and then verify that her conclusions are based on scientific data, that they're sound, and that they're reasonable conclusions for the evidence or the data that she's collected and the answers that she's taken from those from the data.
So that involves you reviewing her notes?
Yes.
It involves you reviewing her actual results in terms of any chemical testing or DNA testing?
Correct.
In this case, did it involve you reviewing the photographs taken by the crime lab?
Lisa showed me the photographs of, well, not photographs. It was a photograph of, I believe, item A1A, which was a tiny dark spot that was collected from a van.
Is anybody else
And
hearing
was that
Ice
part
Ice
of your
Baby?
peer review of her findings?
Vanilla Ice on?
And were you aware in your peer review of a decision made based on any factor not to conduct any chemical testing to determine whether the item that they identified was blood? Were you aware that that decision was being made by the crime lab in this case?
I was aware of that decision, and I would say that any crime lab in the country would have probably taken the same path, that when you have such a small amount of material to work with, you don't want to risk losing the DNA evidence to trying some other tests that may use up all the sample or a good portion of it that you don't get a result or a DNA result.
Isn't that what you
later
did
on.
with the little speck of reddish
Involved in your
brown
peer review
substance
process, were you
in the
reviewing
van?
the judgment by Ms. Treffinger that the item identified on the van as A1 appeared to her to, by visual observation, be consistent
I'm
with?
going to object. That is not an opinion in her report.
I indicated her overall assessment. If he peer reviewed,
I didn't hear you.
if he peer reviewed her opinion that upon visual observation this item A1 was blood. Did he
Item
peer review
A1
that?
What?
Excuse me.
Item A1 was what?
Was blood. Did he peer review that particular
Oh, there he goes with the wing.
opinion offered by her or conclusion
The
offered
tell.
by her at the crime lab?
One of the
And
many
again,
tell
that is not an
signs.
opinion. That is not an opinion
The
or
wing.
conclusion that was included in her reports
Okay.
or any findings that I could note other than her testimony in this.
Okay, so would you be mad at me if I had like a chicken sound? I don't want to try to mimic it because you know what I'm talking about for like when he does the thing with his arm, like a chicken sound. Okay.
This court. So I don't believe this analyst could have peer reviewed an opinion or a finding that was not documented.
Well, I believe he has.
Let him answer and then you can cross-examine.
So, do you understand my question?
Could you state it again, please?
Sure. Is part of the peer review process that you have conducted
Isn't there like a funky chicken song? That could be good for the little stinger of him getting kicked out of court. There has to be a chicken song of some sort.
In this case,
I'll focus now, I promise.
render an independent judgment about whether the sample, A1, visually appeared to be blood by appearance.
I guess I'm going to object that misstates the prior witness's testimony about how she came to her conclusion about that dot allegedly being blood. She didn't base that on the appearance. She based it on the other factors that I don't really want to go into much more.
Her first decision, her initial decision, was based on her visual observation, and as the court will recall, it's bolstered by her scientific results. So right now I'm asking, based on his visual observation, does he agree or disagree with her original conclusion, subject to further information?
Well, she's saying that's not what the evidence was.
I can ask him his independent view, if you wish, what his independent observation is of it.
Well,
I believe I have fairly summarized her evidence. If I guess it's subject to cross if there's a disagreement.
You feel you're knowledgeable sufficiently to answer the question?
I can offer an opinion as to what the stain may or may not be. I don't, as was stated, Lisa didn't put in her report what her opinion was as to the source of the stain. But I can offer an opinion if that's the question.
Is the opinion that she offered to us in our courtroom, is that a decision that was discussed in peer review?
Judge, I'm going to object.
Can I finish?
No.
We don't know. He wasn't here for testimony.
No.
Correct.
I believe this particular opinion is one he has peer reviewed. The opinion offered by her.
No. That's not what your question inquired. Your question was, is the opinion she gave here in this courtroom? And he wasn't here.
Absolutely.
Rephrase your question.
Yep. Did you peer review a decision by analyst Treffinger that the A1 appeared visually to be blood?
I wouldn't say I peer reviewed that. I would say that based on what I know.
Hello, Mr. Vielhammer Media. I had to move
Lisa was able to provide to me
your thing when I was tinkering.
The proper decision was made that this had the appearance of possibly being blood, and that she forgo
I'm having a balance issue with the screen.
Testing that might allow you to determine whether or not it was blood.
I know where I can put it.
With the hopes of gaining the DNA knowledge, rather than risk losing the DNA and just saying, oh, this is blood, but now I don't have any DNA profile for comparison.
So based on peer review, you agreed with that call, with that decision?
I'm going to object. He didn't peer review that opinion, and he's already stated that he didn't make a peer review of that as it wasn't a finding in her report.
What?
He just offered his own opinion.
Well, is he here?
There goes the wing.
Sorry, what?
Is he up here?
Where's the chicken sound? Hello and welcome this way up.
Well, can he give a peer review?
I started following you on Discord. Or added you as a friend.
He wasn't present for everything that she had mentioned, so no, because he wouldn't be able
I'm not stalking.
To make a decision based and testify based on what she provided, because that opinion she provided, Judge, the first time we heard that was in this courtroom. That was not documented anywhere. So it does not exist in any other form or fashion or any notes. So Gravely attempting to go down this road would, sorry, Attorney Gravely, would not be appropriate. given what's already been testified to and the fact that her opinion was only stated in court.
So, Judge, this is something the court has heard us talk about several times. It was talked about more than a year ago in public proceedings. It's been talked about numerous times. This is not new information. This conclusion that we're talking about is not a brand new conclusion to the defense. They've heard this, and the court has heard it several times. So,
what I'm most interested in is whether this witness believes himself to be qualified under scientific standards to conduct a peer review of what was reported in this case by Ms. Evergard.
Yes, the answer to that question is yes.
And
Yeah, Irish is here. Hello.
is that something you do forthwith? Immediately?
Well, I peer reviewed all of Lisa's work on this case. So before the report goes out, the peer reviewer needs to agree with all of Lisa's conclusions that she's written down in the report. So I agree with everything that's in Lisa's report.
okay, so what we've said, though, is that what is not in Lisa's report is the additional opinion offered that the item tested, A1, appears consistent with blood evidence based on scientific findings and observation. Are you able to offer a peer-reviewed opinion about that particular thing, knowing that's not specific in the report? Are you able to offer that peer review?
Yes.
Okay, so that is my question. What is your peer review conclusion, and what is it based on that would lead you to be able to render an opinion, yes or no, about whether you as a state crime analyst believe A1 appears to be blood?
So this stain A1, I asked Lisa if she could provide me a photograph of it, and she did, and she showed it to me, and it's a very, very small stain. And as I stated previously, this was absolutely the right call to not do any presumptive testing for blood and save this precious amount of sample, because it's very limited, and put it all into the DNA typing procedure, which is what happened. And she was able to develop a lot of information from this DNA profile. Now, the question is, what is the source of that DNA? So with the typing procedure and the results that we obtained, we know that that tissue from A1 is human tissue, but we were not able to do any testing to determine what the source of that tissue is. However, this tiny little dark-colored speck or splash is not consistent with semen. It's not consistent with saliva. It could not be a hair. Could it be skin cells that are providing the DNA? And again, I would say no, for a couple of reasons. One is skin cells are what we call touch DNA that sloughs off your hands as you handle objects, is not a very good source of DNA. And while there wasn't a lot of DNA in this sample, it did yield a fairly, a relatively intense profile. Again, not real strong, but not really consistent with just incidental contact or touching. However, the most reasonable explanation, given the color and the appearance of this tiny little speck or splash, is that it's blood. And as I stated previously, the DNA testing shows it had to have been human tissue.
And is the photograph, you're saying you reviewed a photograph that was essentially a photograph while this speck was still in a van?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Like, are you looking for a copy of the
I'm going to show you a picture and ask you, well, no, that's right. So it was a picture of a spec, a crime lab picture taken of a spec in the interior of a van. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
So I'm going to show you what's been marked as
315 on Exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1, 315.
Pause. Pause one moment. So Soloman just said the police claim that they had a positive test for blood in the back of Zach's van before the end of May 2020. Okay, I don't know how many of you watched the recent Bryce Rhodes trial. It was very short. It was horrible what he did to 3 people. And you would not believe the rigmarole over this supposed back seat. So the police had claimed that the vehicle was missing a back seat and that they had it in evidence. Turns out the detective that testified towards the end of the trial, turns out that was like a spin on this whole backseat thing. And he's like, listen, we were talking about like evidence. There's a lot of evidence in this case we need to bring in. The judge kind of like, said, well, like, what's the biggest thing of evidence? And he just kind of threw out there as kind of like an what's that word? Well, I can't put it together. Like, well, I don't know. The back seat, kind of. And then they kind of took and ran with it. You would not believe how much of the court time was taken going back and forth about this back seat. So on this one, when you talk about the positive test for blood in the back of Zach's van, is kind of that same thing, except in reverse order, meaning it didn't exist to begin with. Hopefully you followed that line of
It's going to come up here on the
thought.
screen. Is that what we're speaking of?
It looks like the photograph Lisa showed me.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Lisa. Indeed. I don't know. In my opinion,
Now, again,
people
the
should
opinion
lose
you
whatever
just,
license they
described
have
as
to
sort of a peer
practice
reviewer,
science.
of this item.
I don't know
Are
if
those
that's a
opinions
thing.
you offer to a
It
reasonable
should
degree
be.
of scientific certainty?
Yes, I would say in this case it's based more on my experience at the number of cases I've handled, I've screened, and I've worked over the years involving blood.
And you described this picture or this the spec that you talked about as a splash. Why do you use that term, just so I know?
It is so not a splash.
Well, it was so small.
So small.
And you might, I guess, wonder how did it get there?
Yes, that's what we were
To me,
talking about.
It had the appearance of.
I guess I'm going to stop, and this is asking for an expert opinion in the appearance of a stain, and I don't believe that, respectfully, that this witness's qualifications in that regard have been established.
You can cross,
Oh no,
that
are we
develops,
having more internet issues?
take a remedial measure. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, based on the appearance of it, it looked to me like it was something that would have sprayed or splashed and landed there and then dried, that it wasn't some sort of application.
Okay, isn't that assuming? Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. I mean, we haven't even made it to 2 hours yet and we're getting spins. Okay, I've dropped 0.0% frames, 16 so far, in almost 2 hours. We've got full kilobytes per second, all green. I don't know what's going on. Sigh. I don't know if I need to get like a new modem. Yeah, now we've dropped all the way down to what is it? 360. I mean, a new modem is basically the only thing I haven't done. It's not the computer, I know that. Okay, let's see where we are here. 359.20. 359.20. If Erin Hack is in the chat, she can corroborate our faulty internet here in the suburban areas of Minneapolis this week, the last couple days. Back down here you go, window. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. You probably know what it is. The chickpea is neither a chick nor a pea. Discuss. Although June did come up with an explanation yesterday. The origin of the word chickpea. Well, and I've got all blue. There's no red lights. I wonder if I have like some type of firewall problem. Oh, FFS. Restream says live excellent. Please hold momentarily. Oops. Maybe I have to close this. I don't hardly have any windows open. Sigh. Hmm. I'm unable to fix it. So if you're watching me right now and you can still hear me, I'm gonna give it another minute. I have cleared caches. I do that every day. Cleared history, again, do that every day. The only thing I have not done is restart my router. I should have maybe done that before I started. I normally do that. Okay. This is so weird though, because it says live excellent. And over here, it's excellent with, again, 0.0% dropped frames. What is happening? I need to call Mark. Mark will know how to fix this. But it is kind of weird. It's only really been happening like the last 3 days. Like once in a while I get it, but usually not. YouTube's DNS address could not be found. Let's see if Rumble. Let's see if I can get on Rumble. I don't understand this. For those of you who are perhaps in the computer industry, we need to. No, actually, what I should do is I should have Mark, my sister's boyfriend that gave me the Screamin' Demon computer, tell me what's happening. Okay, I'm going to have to close for now and restart my modem. Hard reset it. Unless this miraculously goes. And we'll have to do part 2. We were just getting going. All right. I apologize. I'm going to abruptly stop streaming, reset, and it'll just give me like 15 minutes. Maybe not even that long. Okay, goodbye. Sigh.